talking to people who look at the world through Bitcoin is the way that they can kind of see how inflation works. It's one of the reasons Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy decided that he wasn't being a fit CEO by having cash on his balance sheet. And he thought, well, what should I have on my balance sheet? Because my cash is basically growing at the rate of inflation of 34% a year if you look at where the stock market went up. And he said, I'm actually not, being fiduciary responsible if I'm doing this. And he thought gold, and then he found Bitcoin. And so I've also had Jeff Booth, who wrote a whole book about inflation and deflation. And he says, when you price everything in the future in Bitcoin, the prices of everything goes down. But when you price it in dollars, technology, it goes up. Yeah. So
yeah, exactly.
It's an amazing way to see the world. And I'm glad you started there because, I don't know if you're finding this, Michael, but, when you start talking to people about money, and so many people tune out. I think it's got to do with our education system that never acknowledged or even began to talk about money. And I think people just sometimes think they're not smart enough. They get frustrated. So you have to really start probably slow. And I guess that's what you were doing with the first part of the series.
Yeah, absolutely. And really kind of on a broad perspective, I guess one way to think of it is, that you've heard the analogy, we've all heard it, we're in the early 90s with internet companies. That's where we are with crypto companies, DAOs, whatever we call them these days. That's true, right? But I wanted people to understand, not necessarily like, oh, pick company X, pick company Y, here's your trading strategy, because that's not my background, that's not my expertise. I put people like that in front of the camera, so that's included in the series. But what I wanted people to see is sort of the big picture of why this stuff is inevitable. Because when you understand that the technology is so far superior than the existing solutions inside of a given area of our life, that the superior technology always wins in war, right? You got the, bronze beats iron, or maybe that's vice versa. I don't know my history, really, I should.
Yeah, I always remind my students, especially when the markets are down, that this is, a technological revolution. It's also a complete shift in human paradigm. And both of those factors are 10x to 100x to 1,000x better than what the system has. So it's only a matter of time before it gets adopted. The great comparison is the internet. That was technology. It was actually quite decentralized technology, lucky enough. And it created this revolution. But I was in the dot-com boom. I was in New York City. I was the CFO of a startup, and we saw it go up and go down. But I've had Andreas Antonopoulos on the show, and he said, Brian, the year 2000 was the worst when it comes to asset value of technology, but it was one of the best years in technology because that year more people started using Amazon, more people started using email. So if you don't look at the market cap and you just look at the adoption, it just continued to rocket. So I always use that analogy with my students. But Bitcoin's down, so what? This tech is still being developed and it's still moving forward. And again, it's the fastest adoption of technology we've ever seen in our species. It's growing, according to Raoul Pal, at like 113% year on year, which is literally exponential growth. And
exactly.
It's something we're not used to. We don't even know how to process it. So sometimes you have to take a step back and just say, first principles, okay, we're not crazy. Let's just keep going.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I still, like when people are crypto skeptical, I'm shocked. Like I'm just like, the deeper you look into this, there's always the chance we're human. Maybe we have confirmation bias, but there's a lot of us who see the light, and is passing a lot of logic tests, and most importantly, use cases out in the real world, in the wild, where it's chaos.